if you're new to the landscaping business and you can't find experienced employees, no one wants to work for you who has experience, or maybe the people who have experience, aren't reliable or they're not good, then this video will help you. My name is Nick Staples, and over the past 9 years, my business partner and I have grown our landscaping company to over $3 million in annual revenue by offering basic maintenance services to residential homeowners. And so in this video, I'm going to explain to you kind of change or mindset shift that in the very beginning actually allowed us to get better employees until we became more established and then could eventually, attract, the top talent that everyone talks about. So here's the difference. So what we did, and let me tell you, there was a year where we went through over 70 employees in 1 year and we only needed 15. So if you're wondering if I have, experience with hiring or firing or finding people, like I think that pretty much sums it up. 70 employees. It was miserable. So when we first started out, we were trying to hire experienced people because we're like, we might as well get people who know what they're doing. And so what happened was we were a new company. We had like one or two trucks, was running it out of like a not even like a real shop. We didn't have a garage, we didn't have anything. And so we were looking for people who had experience, and we basically were just attracting the worst but experienced employees that were in the market. It was the people that were jumping around from job to job, people who were unreliable, people who had various personal issues that, made them really difficult to deal with. And so we kind of went down that path and we're like, this is just like these people are great when they're great, but they're not here half the time and they cause problems and whatever. They sit at the gas station for 30 minutes or whatever. So what we did instead is we started to pay more for less experienced people. Because we were new, we had a hard time competing for crew leaders. So like we had a hard time paying more than like our big competition pays for their crew leaders because they were given benefits and they were getting swag and they were getting the coolness of working for a big company and all this stuff. So like it was really hard to get like top tier talent to come and work for our small little, dinky landscaping company. And so what we did was we're like, well, let's just pay more for people with less experience. And that's what we did. And so what happened was the first thing we did was we simplified our services as much as we could at the time. So we tried to create pretty simple training like checklists, whatever. Here's how you do each service. We only do these services. If there is a complex job, then at that point maybe I would get involved, but at least for the majority of them, we tried to do really simple services. And so we would hire people. We were paying more for less experienced people, which attracted good employees who weren't experienced. So we had like delivery drivers, we had people who worked in like adjacent fields like painting or roofing or whatever because they were like, well, I'm making, 15 an hour at my job delivering packages. I can make 18 an hour landscaping and I don't even need experience. I can just get right into it. And so we got those people who generally were pretty reliable and they were, professional enough to like talk to a customer, and they didn't know what they were doing like at all for landscaping, but that was the trade-off. We took people who we could teach. Like I knew how to landscape, my business partner knew how to landscape. We can teach that. You can't really teach someone to be reliable, especially if they've been unreliable for 10 or 20 years. And so that's what we did. So if you're new to getting started, just keep that thought in mind. You might be better off hiring someone who has no experience, paying them more. They're going to be grateful for the job that pays them a lot and teaching them things, cuz and that's also a benefit too cuz they'll feel like they're learning. And what I'll tell you is if it is basic services like mowing and mulch and shrubs and stuff, there's people out there who will learn that stuff very very quickly. We had one guy who had never mowed commercially, like professionally in his life. And within 2 weeks, we hired him and he was a crew leader. So, like, it's not, these services aren't super complicated for people who are, competent and professional and can learn. And so, my recommendation is if you can attract, you're not at the stage where you can attract those top tier guys who 15 years experience, reliable, and want the best environment, the best company, the best benefits, which you should shoot for, but you don't have that right away. If you can't find those people, just go on the other end of it and pay more for the less experienced people. And in our experience, that wasn't that hard because the bigger companies weren't paying that more for less experienced people, or weren't paying that much money for less experienced people. They had so many like great guys that they just really didn't need it, or at least that's what it seemed like. They didn't really need like that many people who just didn't have experience. So um, if you're struggling right now to hire someone, I would give that strategy a try. And again, anything with their resume or their experience that has like relevant experience. Like you probably wouldn't want to hire someone to mow lawns who's like only worked in like retail. Not saying that people in retail can't do, blue collar and labor jobs, but our experience was that if they person had some sort of like physical labor job where they're walking, lifting things, moving around, warehouse, whatever, they were much more likely to last and to stick around. So I would recommend that.